Itch it up, my selector.
Due to some violent content, parental discretion is advised.
I know you gonna dig this.
The Maestro.
Fist hits the bag, 1, 2, and comes back. Single fist here. You hear that beat?
Think outside the box, and BO Xing on top of them, clocking them, sending back to the corner for oxygen. Golden gloves, I know myself, I know the game. It's not a game, I know the ring, I want the belt. Finding the rhythm and hit them, split them and touch them and tip them. Hit that six pack with that quick jab. Uppercut the bro, making them fall down, break them all down. Switch stands, tippy toe, in the hands, give some more. Not Muhammad Ali, anomaly, a Mayweather, Pacquiao, prodigy in the midst of fist to fist. Just S2, hot to rock, think out the box. You know I got the rock, speed back.
That would be a little drown.
And it is Maestro. It's Maestro, and I'm back for a special edition of Punchlines. I'm joined by the one and only Mr. Joe Habib. Joe, thank you for joining me this morning. We're going to talk about the heavyweight division. All right. Get ready to rumble, ladies and gentlemen, because we're going to be talking about the big boys, the heavyweights, and who's situated where. And, you know, we're going to start off the discussion by talking about none other than Anthony A.J. Joshua. Okay, because, you know, listen, I was doing a live the other day, Thursday, and, you know, people are still very adamant that AJ is the superstar in the division, even more so than the Gypsy King Tyson Fury. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk a little bit about AJ's current status in the heavyweight division, and what I think are some hypocrisies. Joe's going to speak his mind about some of that stuff. But thank you very much for joining us. I already see some people in the chat. Salute to Coach Rivera. Salute to Cam CSDS. Salute to Remy. All right, he's giving a shout out to me and to the Beeb. Top of the morning, Mr. Joe Habib. And thank you for being on here. So let's just kick it off. Let's kick it off right now, Joe. I was actually quite surprised last weekend. I mean, I probably shouldn't be surprised at this point, Joe, given the many discussions we've had, given the many videos we've both seen, given the many narratives we've listened to and read chats about. There's a lot of disappointment about this fight. Tyson Fury, one-sided, total domination of Derek Del Boy / War Chisora. But it wasn't only enough to criticize that performance, criticize that opponent, Joe. Maestro, there were some empty seats inside the arena. Okay, I mean, it was 60,000 plus in a stadium that seats more than that, but it was done on a December evening, during literally the middle of the World Cup. Again, in December, while it was cold outside. Joe, yet, you know, there's very little criticism or nobody counts anything related to Joshua. And I know I've gone on for a while, so I'm going to pass it right to you in a second. You know, I got yelled at, I got laughed at when I said that DAZN was going to be covering the AJ comeback show and that AJ wouldn't be the superstar of the division following what I knew would be his second loss to Alexander Usyk. So, Joe, the question is, all right, and I think to me it's pretty obvious that he's not, but is Joshua still like the A-list guy, the A-side guy, the superstar in the heavyweight divisions, or is that now Tyson Fury?
Well, there's a basic assumption out there by a lot of hardcore Joshua fans primarily that he can lose as many times as he wants, or just lose as many times as it happens. And automatically, his star power is not going to be affected by it at all. He just lost 2 fights in a row. And we're hearing people say, well, he's still the biggest name in the heavyweight division. But that remains to be seen because we don't know moving forward what's going to happen. We have no information post 2-loss Joshua to suggest that automatically, no matter who he fights, there's just going to be that large outcry of interest that there was before. So to just assume that without having any data to support it, now you can look back and say, well, look how much interest was in the second Usyk fight. Yeah, because there was a storyline behind that. Now, just as people did not like the third Chisora fight, are they really going to like a second Dillian White fight with Anthony Joshua? Because once again, Dillian White's coming off of a knockout loss to Tyson Fury, and he's coming off a fight in which arguably Jermaine Franklin, I had the fight a draw. You had Jermaine Franklin winning. There's still a lot of debate on whether Dillian White won that fight or not. So he's coming off of 2 poor performances, right? And Joshua's coming off of 2 poor performances. So just to assume that you put those 2 guys together and automatically that's going to be a home run. That's going to sell out a stadium. That's going to generate a ton of pay-per-view buys over in the UK. I'm not so sure that that's the case. I think the biggest fight, in my opinion, honestly, in the heavyweight division would possibly be Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder. And then, people can argue, well, Anthony Joshua is not known in the United States. Well, neither was Tyson Fury back when Deontay Wilder fought him. But those 3 fights did some pretty respectable numbers in the United States, given how the market in the United States pay-per-view wise has been horrible with the streaming and all that. Even with the third fight that supposedly nobody wanted, I think it did like 650,000 pay-per-view buys. So do the math. Like if Joshua and Wilder can do like 500,000 pay-per-view buys over here, and then possibly break 1 million over in the UK, and then sell out a stadium of maybe 80,000 people over there, I think that can generate a lot of money. So that's a fight, honestly, because of the 2 styles, because that's almost guaranteed to end in a knockout because of the vulnerabilities of both guys. And because you don't really know, you may say who you think is going to win, but you can see either guy winning that fight. That's probably the biggest 50-50 fight in the heavyweight division. That would be a pick 'em, I think, in terms of the odds makers. So that has all the ingredients, and that's the biggest recipe right there for a huge fight. But outside of that, with Joshua, maybe Joshua versus Fury, right? But this assumption that Joshua can just go fight the guy that works at 7-Eleven and everyone's going to just flock to it and love it, that remains to be seen. There's a different trajectory going on here. Like, Fury is starting to gain a lot of ground. And I think you could argue that he's at the very least, caught up with Joshua. And you can argue maybe past him in terms of popularity. I mean, those 3 Wilder fights were epic. Even the second one, the way he said that he was just going to go out there and take it to Wilder and knock him out. And he did just what he said he was going to do. And here's another thing, you hear Eddie Hearn constantly saying that Joshua's got the best resume in the heavyweight division. And, Tyson Fury hasn't fought any elite guys. But let's be honest, for the longest time, there was only 3 elite guys in the division. That was Tyson Fury, that was Anthony Joshua, and that was Deontay Wilder. And you go, Pete, they're not elite. Okay, you have to judge them based on their era. You don't want to judge them all time or whatever. You can if you want, but you can only judge guys based on their era. And these were the top 3 guys. And only the top 2 guys actually fought each other. Now, Usyk just recently jumped in the mix. He's got one big win on his resume at heavyweight, and that's Anthony Joshua. Now, time will tell moving forward if that win, ages well, right? Because if Anthony Joshua comes out, even in Dillian White, even if he wins and doesn't look impressive, and you can argue Joshua may lose again. He still may not be all the way back. There's a lot of things going on with Joshua right now in terms of mentally and possibly physically, right? He's been in some hard fights. You got to argue that these people that say that he's still the cash cow of the division, I think you can question that. And I think we have to see what happens in his next fight. But I do think the one fight out there that is a blockbuster, in my opinion, is him versus Wilder. I'm not sure that Fury versus Usyk. I don't think that would be a huge fight here over in America. You can argue, who cares about what's big over in America? Because the price point is so high here. All you have to do is sell 500,000 pay-per-views, and you're going to generate more money than a UK fight would. Now, of course, if Saudi is going to spend all that money just so they can, as you said before, and I've said before, so they can sports wash their image or whatever. And it's so ironic because everyone wants to pocket watch and count how successful and how much money and what's lost in Tyson Fury pay-per-views. But how is Saudi making any money? Yeah. How is Saudi making any money, right? On spending $75 million for a Joshua fight when the tickets are cheaper and the arena is only 19,000 people or 12,000 people in the arena, So, and people still haven't seen Fury in one commercial on TV. All the sponsors want AJ. Well, let me ask you this: how often has AJ been on ESPN? How often has AJ been on Fox? How many shows has AJ done over in the United States? How many WWE events has AJ done? I have a Tyson Fury shirt. I bought it. That has quite a bit of sponsors on that. And here's another thing. Here's another thing. Fury has his own energy drink called Furiosity. What does AJ have? So this whole argument that people are making that AJ is just this monster of a marketer. I got to be honest with you. I think Fury's got a better story. People like the Fury story because the average guy can relate more to Tyson Fury than they can relate more to AJ. And you can argue Tyson Fury's a bullshit artist. He lies a lot. He's this, he's that. But he admits his fragility, whereas AJ's been put up on this pedestal. So then when he does show that he's human, it's not accepted as much as it is with Fury because we've already known all along, and Tyson can self-deprecate and tells you how flawed of a human being he is. But this perception of perfection from AJ that's been sold to us for so long, now we're starting to see that it's not the case. Now I'm starting to see some backlash. I'm starting to see some people on Twitter and other social media networks and YouTube. There's starting to be a lot more pushback now, more than ever before. So you can argue the tide is turning. And just to sit there and say that it's not, I think you're kind of being myopic in your viewpoint.
Well, just to follow up on that, Joe, I mean, still haven't seen Fury in one commercial on TV. All the sponsors want AJ. Okay. But Fury's had best-selling books. Fury's done a tour where people buy tickets to go listen to him.
Doing a documentary on Netflix, brother. Anthony Joshua's not doing a documentary on Netflix because no one cares about his story because it's the same prototypical blue chipper story. Tyson Fury's is not.
Right? He's got a Christmas albums with Robbie Williams. He's got a new song being released that's doing streaming numbers. He did a remake of the Sweet Caroline that they sing at all of the boxing matches over there in the UK. But what's interesting to me again, and U-Man was on with me the other day. He jumped on with me when I was talking to Tony. It's very interesting to me the double standard when it's applied to Fury because we all remember, Fury can't sell tickets in the UK. Fury only fights in the US because he's not popular in the UK. Then he says he's going to go back to Wembley. And what do people say? He's never going to sell out Wembley. Not only that, he's afraid to fight Dillian White. Then he ends up fighting Dillian White. It's not going to sell tickets at Wembley. Well, then they ended up expanding seating. And then we started having, you called it the pocket watchers. I call them the seat counters too. On Maestro, I'm seeing an empty seat there and an empty seat there and an empty seat there. I've never even ever heard of this before, where a guy does a stadium fight and now people are counting seats, okay? And then they do it again most recently for the Chisora fight, again in December, again during the middle of the World Cup, again in cold weather, again in a soccer stadium, and the seat counters are out again. Okay, well, the question still remains. I had it 2 days ago, right? All of the people that want to pocket watch whether a promotion made money, were they asking whether the Saudi fights were profitable, right? Were they asking whether Andy Ruiz versus AJ2 in Saudi was profitable? No, nobody asked that. They were focused on the tremendous sports washing site fee coming from the Saudis. Was anybody counting seats for those fights? No, nobody was counting seats. Nobody's like, well, yeah, in the dunes, I saw an empty seat there and an empty seat there. Yeah, Maestro, look, there's 2 more empty seats. If you just look to the right, who's doing this, right? So, and then the same thing applies for Usyk Joshua too, also in Saudi. No one was counting seats. No one was asking whether the promotion was profitable or not. So when I hear this, I just see people that don't want to accept reality. I hear people that don't want to accept the reality of the fact that, guess what? Your boy ain't running the division anymore. Guess what? The dude that's running the division is Tyson Fury. And then, I mean, when the negotiations broke down around the Fury AJ fight that was supposedly potentially going to take place this month, right? The same day that Chisora fought Fury. Joe, we remember, it was clear. I mean, they were saying that there was a commercial entanglements, that, you know, AJ can't be the B side essentially because he has his sponsorship responsibilities. He can only fight on the network that he's signed to, blah, 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 blah. So essentially, he can only fight if he's the A side. Essentially, he can only fight if he has all of the marketing and the sponsorships going his way. Well, this is the reality of the situation, ladies and gentlemen. And I said it before the loss to Usyk, the second one, and I'm going to repeat it again now. DAZN is going to be televising the AJ comeback story, and it ain't going to be against the elite competition, because guess what? Okay, Shelly Finkel ain't serving up Deontay to be the B side, and Frank Warren ain't serving up Joe Joyce to be the B side. Okay, and the things that need to go AJ's way, from the broadcasting to the sponsorships to, guess what, the guaranteed rematch clauses. He was able to get away with that stuff before, Joe, but as you pointed out, he's now lost 3 of his last 5 fights. 3 of his last 5 fights, okay? And to your point again about, you know, the opponents not being elite right now in the heavyweight division, I think you mentioned Wilder, you mentioned Fury, and you said there's criticism of the heavyweight game right now. I mean, there's very few eras in heavyweight boxing where you had more than 3 guys that are at the top of the sport.
Well, let me address the whole resume. Let me address, I'm gonna drop a bombshell on the sponsorships, because here's something that a lot of people don't know, and I had this in my back pocket, and I was gonna talk about this today on the show, and a lot of people are gonna be surprised when I say this. So let's address the era first. So when you look at Tyson Fury, currently he's the only champion in the heavyweight division right now, the only elite guy, right? I don't want to say only, but out of the big 3, let's take the big 3, because Usyk just came to the division, so you know he actually did the same thing. But he did it with one guy at heavyweight. Fury did it with a couple guys. So Fury has beaten guys when he wasn't expected to, right? And he's beaten them in their backyards. And Usyk's done similar things at cruiserweight, but for the most part, he was always the favorite at cruiserweight. And when he came up to heavyweight the one time, you know, he was an underdog against Joshua. He overcame the odds. But Fury has been doing this throughout his career. You know, in the first Chisora fight, that was pretty much it was argued that he could lose that one. That was, I think he was maybe a slight favorite, or that was almost like a 50-50 fight. But that was the fight that was going to tell the story about Fury, if he was ready for the big time or not, the first Chisora fight. And he won that fight, I believe, clearly and handily, and in more impressive fashion than was expected, because that was supposed to be a tough fight. And a lot of people, like I said, did think Chisora could win that fight and would win that fight. So that was a crossroads fight for both men to determine whether or not they belonged at the top level. And Fury passed the test, and Chisora did not. And then we can look to the Klitschko fight, where he was a significant underdog, fighting Klitschko in Germany, which is basically his home away from home, where he has a lot of sponsorship deals and such, and he was the A side or whatever, right? Everything was slighted towards Klitschko's way. Tyson Fury wins that fight 9-3 on my scorecard. You can even argue 10-2. And he was the only guy to ever in the history of Klitschko's career beat him by decision. The only other way that, all of Klitschko's losses, obviously, as you know, were by knockout. So he did something that was unprecedented, and it still hasn't been duplicated, and probably can't be duplicated now because of, obviously, Klitschko retiring, saying he may come back. We'll see. But we saw Joshua, who faced a much different version of, not nearly as the same version that Fury fought, a much lesser version, in my opinion. And he went life and death. And some people argue that he was down on the cards before he stopped him. And if Klitschko finished that fight on his feet, maybe Klitschko could have possibly squeaked away with a decision there. So then you look at the Wilder fights, right? The two Wilder fights, he was an underdog. So he won when he wasn't supposed to. Fury's overachieved pretty much his whole career, where Joshua has not lived up to the expectations. He's had some lackluster performances against Joseph Parker, even against Povetkin, he looked shaky. Against who was that the short guy he fought there that Chisora knocked out? The cruise, that short heavyweight stocky guy. I forget. Tackham. Yeah, he didn't look good against Tackham.
Didn't. The referee got too involved in that fight, and the referee also got too involved with
in the Parker fight. Yeah. So then you look at the Dillian White fight where he was stunned and almost got hurt there. Like, he's showing a lot of chinks and vulnerabilities over his career, and then he loses to Andy Ruiz when he's like a 25-1 favorite, and then he loses to Usyk when he's like a 3-1 favorite. I mean, he just was supposed to be that guy, but he's always come up short, in these big moments where Tyson Fury rises to the occasion. So when you hear Eddie Hearn try to say, oh, well, he's got a better resume, this, that, and third, it's almost like he's resorting to something else because he knows that it's almost like a diversion, in other words, to try to add relevance to AJ and make him more substantive than he really is, because on paper, he just doesn't have the skills that Fury has. He just hasn't been impressive in the big fights as Fury has. So now you have to look to something else, like, oh, he's a bigger draw, he's got a better resume, instead of saying that he's actually the better fighter based on skill, right? So that's the problem. So like I said, Fury's overachieved, and Joshua has arguably underachieved based on the potential that was set forth and put upon him. Now let's look. This is a shocker that I don't even think you may not even know this, with all due respect. We're hearing these sponsorship arguments, right? So Tyson Fury made $7 million in sponsorships and endorsements in 2022, and this is without the book yet, and this is without the Netflix special. So this is without that, right?
And probably without the song.
This is without the music. This is without, and we're not even counting the WWE appearances and all that stuff. So there's a lot more revenue streams for Tyson Fury. And let's be honest, he's more of an entertaining, funny character. No one hangs on the edge of their seat waiting to see what Anthony Joshua is going to say next. They kind of get a kick out of, like, Tyson Fury, what he's going to say. He's got those viral soundbite interview moments, particularly with True Geordie. Joshua doesn't have that because everyone asks Joshua the softball questions. No one challenges Joshua. They only challenge Fury. So let's address this endorsement argument. So here's something people probably don't know. So it says here, this is an article on the Daily Mail, which is pretty reputable. Anthony Joshua lost 3 million pounds in sponsorships deals, and his endorsements dropped by a whopping 35% after losing to Alexander Usyk. So it also goes on to say, let me go down here. These fucking ads. So his endorsements were at one point before the second Usyk fight, they were at 8,400,053 pounds in February of 2021. In February of 2002, they went down to 5,527,952. So there was a significant drop, right, in his endorsement and sponsorship deals after that Usyk loss, where Tyson Fury is going up. So again, this is not lies. This is factual data here. He basically lost 35% of his endorsements after that second loss. So to sit there and just assume that this guy can lose as many times as, multiple times and continue to, not look great. And then, having that outburst and people like seeing that he's not this guy that we all thought he was, that he's not this virtuous, nice guy. And then, the whole, the other comments about like the black businesses and some of the questionable statements he made in the past, but they only want to talk about Fury's statements as well, but they don't want to talk about Anthony Joshua's statements. And then, I think we for the longest time, Anthony Joshua was kind of playing a character where Tyson Fury is a character. So that's the difference. So again, there's a shift going on right now, and I think you'll see this year when Fury fights Usyk, and I think he'll beat Usyk. Right, I think he'll win that fight if he beats Usyk, and then goes on to beat Joe Joyce. If he fights Joe Joyce, that will be two huge wins, and then I think at that point, and these are big ifs, but I think he would beat both guys, and you can argue that maybe he would fight both guys, right? Because Joe Joyce will be the WBO mandatory, and he is the mandatory at some point. It's just that they have to, wait to order that fight. So it's very possible and plausible that he would get that winner of Fury versus Usyk. And Bob Arum came out today, or actually yesterday, and said that he anticipates that fight will be signed between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk by the end of the week, by the end of next week. So Fury's going to have the elbow surgery. It's basically a scope. It's a 6-week recovery. I don't think it'll be a hurdle or an obstacle for that fight to be happening with Usyk. So yeah, I definitely think there's a shift right now, and it's going in Tyson Fury's favor. And I think you could argue probably right now, I would say he's maybe even ahead of Anthony Joshua in popularity and status right now, because he's the one that's going on the shows over in the UK. You don't see Anthony Joshua going on a lot of these UK shows. You don't see Anthony Joshua doing the interviews in the media. There's no Netflix special that's going to be done on Anthony Joshua. People want to know Fury's story. They're more interested in Fury's story, in my opinion. But go ahead.
No, I mean, I think that's true. And the reason I think like this is a relevant topic and discussion is simple. AJ's star power is referenced, is cited by his promotional team as a reason why certain fights can't get made. AJ's star power, in view of AJ as this huge star in the heavyweight division, is the reason that they insist on these rematch clauses. Correct me when you disagree me, or challenge me when you disagree with me, Joe. because I'm seeing comments here that there's a couple here that I want to address. And by the way, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ding that notification bell if you can. All right, and if you're new to the channel, definitely hit the subscribe button.
Well, let me address something here, brother.
Yeah, go for it.
So they're criticizing the source now. The source is always going to be not credible when you don't like the information. But if you Google Anthony Joshua lost sponsorships, you got the Mirror saying it, you got inews.co.uk, got Ringside 24 saying it, you got www.express.co.uk, nybreaking.com, even Business Day. You got Business Day NG. I mean, all these articles are saying it. So everyone is just lying. Everyone's bullshit. You got it's Forbes.com. You know, they're saying it as well.
So look, this is
everyone's lying. Everyone's lying because you don't like the information that's being brought forth. Now, here's the thing, man. Here's the difference between me and even yourself compared to these guys. Fury tested positive for PEDs, right? Fury retired, right, because of depression. But, you know, you could argue that he was going to get suspended by UCOD pending investigation anyways. Like, we can acknowledge all that stuff. We're not going to lie and cape and cap for Fury. Like what Fury has been his own worst enemy over the years, and you and I have agreed with that, right? So let's like we're objective in our analysis of Fury. Like Fury, if you don't like Fury, right? There's a lot to not like about him. But judge everyone by the same standards that you're judging Fury by. Don't only not like it when it comes to Fury, but then give other guys a pass. This video is all about consistency and the truth and just being correct in your analysis. Don't make shit up to suit, you know, live in the world that you have and deal with the world that you have, not the world you want. So apply that to everything in life. Just because you don't like how something is or you don't want something to be a certain way, right? You know, people look at Fury and they say to themselves, how can this guy who looks the way he looks, acts the way he acts, how could he be the heavyweight champion of the world? How could he have this past of abusing himself? How could he be this guy that he is? And quote unquote, how could this guy be a clown outside the ring and inside the ring be a master? You don't want to believe what you're seeing. You don't like what you're seeing. Deontay Wilder couldn't fathom the fact that this gigantic, overweight guy who doesn't have a muscle in his body, who looks like a bag of milk, how did this guy knock me out?
A Euro bum.
I can't accept the fact that this guy knocked me out.
Yeah. So I'm going to address a couple comments. First off, Adam Beanie Smith says, being a Brit and a hardcore boxing fan, the title of this video makes me cringe. Yeah. I mean, I cringe when I hear people telling me this, that he's the biggest star in boxing, that he's still the biggest star in the heavyweight division, that, it's okay to say that the reason big fights don't happen is because of his commercial entanglements. Trust me, I'm with you on that one. So I'm going to complete your statement here, though. Joshua is a workman for the Hearns, shows zero personality, and does what he's told. God only knows what you see stateside. Joe, I'll let you respond to that.
Again, I don't know Joshua personally, but he seems very scripted to me. He seems like he tries to be this politically correct guy. And then when things don't go his way or he's upset or he gets criticized, then we see the real Joshua. Like Fury is a clown a lot of times by the way he acts. He does say contradicting things. He does, but again, that's who he is. That's who he's always been. He's never pretended to be anything but that. Right? Whereas Joshua is portrayed as this honorable, virtuous, perfect human being. You guys put him up on a pedestal. He can do no wrong. Oh, he's fighting everyone. Again, there's the big, he only fought He only fought Usyk, not because he wanted to, because he had to. He didn't pick Usyk. Usyk was made the mandatory, right? Usyk was made the mandatory. This was a guy that even Eddie Hearn said, maybe we should have swerved him. Your own promoter said that. So there was a lack of confidence in you from your own promoter on whether or not you could beat this guy, right? So that's the thing, man.
Well, and then again, I got into this the other day, 2 days ago with Yunan and definitely with Tony P, the pugilist, because it's like Fury gets blamed for everything. He got blamed for testing positive for COVID. Remember that?
Yeah.
I mean, now it's like that seems so silly in retrospect because pretty much everybody has caught or will get COVID. I mean, that's a fact. That's a scientific fact. All right. But you remember how much heat he took for that, right? When he got caught with COVID and everyone's blaming him for getting caught with COVID and he was being irresponsible because he was training and he wasn't wearing a mask all the time. Do you remember this, Joe? Right? Yeah. Oh, there's a picture of him without a mask, even though you could still catch COVID with those surgical masks. So anyways, I'm not going to get into all of that, but that was crazy. Another big one is, oh, yeah, he's got mob ties with MGK Global. Okay. I'll give you that. Let's say he does. What about the Saudis?
Well,
what about DJ getting the Saudi money, blood money, gangster money? Gangster.
Who's been involved in more questionable acts? Saudi or Kinahan?
I mean, 119, reverse the order, those numbers. Okay. What they've done in Syria, I mean, what they're doing in Yemen, what they're doing to their own population. I mean, do the math, ladies and gentlemen. You want to talk about gangster? Talk about the Saudis.
Why can't people just be real with themselves? Calling Fury a fucking clown isn't hate, be always in his feelings. When did I say that's hate, bro? I don't use that word hater, hate speech. I don't believe there's such a thing as that. I don't use those words. Again, you're projecting. I said Fury acts like a clown. So if I'm saying it as a Fury fan, then what is your argument? When did I say, oh, he's not a clown? I call him a clown. He acts like a clown. Sometimes he embarrasses himself outside the ring. I don't defend any of that.
So I don't know, Skyliner, please elaborate. I mean, am I giving a white boy narrative or is Joe giving a white boy narrative?
I don't know.
Or maybe we're both giving a white boy narrative. I really don't know.
This whole thing, like,
it's making me laugh. So here we go. Yunan, Joe, I think your dislike for Joshua is also swaying your judgment too. I don't hear complete.
Okay. What about, I just criticized Fury. What about your dislike for, it's like we're doing yin yang shit here.
Everything I said is factual. You want to talk
this is what the Democrats and Republicans do to each other. They use these arguments against each other when they're both doing the same thing.
100%.
Your hate. So what am I supposed to say now? Your dislike for Fury is caught in your judgment. Fury tested positive for PEDs. I'm going to go down the list. I'm going to go down the list of all the criticisms. I'm going to go down the list of all the legitimate criticisms of Tyson Fury that cannot be defended, in my opinion. And you can argue that really can't be defended by anyone. Tested positive for PEDs. He claimed he ate boar meat. I don't believe him. That's a lie. He argues that he suffered from depression. That's why he retired from the sport of boxing. Listen, being depressed and suffering from clinical depression are two different things. If you have not been diagnosed by a medical professional with a medical disorder, if you have not gone to therapy, if you have not been medicated in any way, Mike Tyson's the only boxer that I know of that actually went to the Mayo Clinic in my state, Massachusetts, which is arguably the best mental health facility in the country, maybe even the world. So he flew to my state to be evaluated, and he was actually diagnosed with bipolar bipolar condition and also anxiety. None of these guys who have come out with saying they suffer from depression can provide a medical diagnosis. They don't have any medical records that prove that they actually suffer from clinical depression. So I don't even think Tyson Fury suffers from clinical depression. I do think he was depressed with all of who wouldn't be depressed if you're being investigated by UCOD, you got stripped by the IBF. You're in a position where it's not favorable to you. So obviously you're going to be depressed.
The media is against you because that's not.
Yeah, but I honestly believe that he doesn't suffer from clinical depression. I think he's full of shit. I acknowledge that. What else? The whole thing about donating money to charity, that's bullshit too. That's fine. So again, we have to be honest in our analysis of Tyson Fury. One thing I can't criticize him for is how good of a boxer he is. I do think he's entertaining. I do think that, he'll tell you that he's not perfect. Does he lie? Yeah, I think he lies. I think he's full of shit, but I don't believe everything he says.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
Look, the other thing too is, what's up with the attacks with AJ? Sheesh, chill. Look, it's not an attack on AJ. I mean, anytime I say anything about another heavyweight, I'm constantly reminded by the AJ fanboys that AJ's still number one. AJ's still most popular. AJ's still the best ticket seller. AJ's the only one that can sell pay-per-views. AJ's the A side. Look, it started on the stream. AJ is the one with the sponsorships, right?
Here's the thing, man. Why do people get angry? They get offended and they get defensive when you criticize AJ. Why does it bother them? If you say Tyson Fury's a clown, he's a liar, he's a PED user, he cheated, right? You will never hear me say, "Oh, why you hating on Fury?" Because all those things are true. They're true. So why would another man live vicariously through another man, right? And why would another man be upset that another man is being criticized that you don't even know? All we're doing is just pointing out how biased people's analysis are, how unfactual people's analysis are, how people are just making statements.
How hypocritical they are when you talk.
Yeah, you're just making statements based off of feelings, not facts.
I mean, this is a good comment here, at least the first part. In all sports, many fans pick their teams and individual athlete based on a whole host of criteria, including nationality, ethnicity, age, etc. Look, I've heard it from friends of mine. They don't like Fury because Fury got advantages. I guess part of that is the whole idea about white privilege or not. But let me tell you something. The darling boy of UK heavyweight boxing was supposed to be David Price. But David Price got knocked out twice in his hometown, Liverpool, by Tony the Tiger Thompson, who at that time was a pretty much washed out journeyman. And that ended it. I mean, he was signed to the major promoter. He was doing the arena shows. Tyson Fury, he came up the tough way. He came up with Hennessy doing the small halls. He was the B-side to Chisora in their first fight. He was a heavy underdog going into Dusseldorf against Vladimir Klitschko. He didn't come up the easy way. So, I mean, that's kind of got to stop. But again, to me, the interesting thing here is the double standards. All right. No one is counting profit margins with AJ fights. Did the Saudis profit or didn't they profit? Nobody says it. Nobody cares. But those same people, they criticize Fury. Nobody is seat counting. Who are the seat counters at the AJ? Oh, I see some empty seats there. I see some empty. Nobody does.
How many people were at the Usyk fights in Saudi Arabia?
Who knows?
Let's look. Let's Google attendance.
I don't know how many people were there. And then the other thing too is the connections to MTK. Okay, he made some connections to MTK. And AJ's padding up nicely, courtesy of the Saudis. Who are the bigger gangsters than them? Who are bigger gangsters? So people just need to stop it. All right. Joe, before we get going, I want your thoughts on one other thing. We spoke about it briefly over the phone. But I'm going to give you an opportunity to watch it and to react. I thought this was quite funny. This is something that my brother Kenny T suggested I watch, and he has his own views of it. But I want your opinion on this. The fact of the matter is, Joe, I mean, we don't know how many people attended those fights. I do know that it probably wasn't anywhere.
Well, listen to this one. Listen to this one.
At Tottenham, or the 95,000 at Wembley.
Let's look at attendance for Joshua's last two fights, and we'll look at attendance for Tyson Fury's last two fights. And again, this is facts. So it's saying here that in the first Usyk-Joshua fight, they fought in front of a crowd of 10,000 people. Okay, fought in a smaller arena. Let's look at attendance.
Well, wait a second, Joe. Was that profitable? Were there empty seats?
Let's look at attendance for Usyk-Joshua too. Okay. All right. So that one, where was the second fight in the UK?
Usyk-Joshua too? No, the second fight was in Saudi.
They were both in Saudi, correct?
Look, it was under 20,000 for sure. Might have even been under 50,000, but under 20,000 for sure. But even give it 20,000, which it wasn't. I mean, look, at the end of the day, and look, no one's saying, you man, that AJ's not popular. What I'm saying is he ain't the big man in the division anymore. He just isn't. So
trying to find out the attendance for the second fight. So the 10,000 for the first fight.
Yeah.
Let's see how much was in the second fight.
If AJ's wants to be in big fights, if AJ's fans want to see him in there with credible quality opponents, the ego's going to have to get dropped a little bit. The pedestal's going to have to be lowered a little bit, because you're going to have to bring in top tier guys, and they're not going to just be bending over. Okay? Joe Joyce ain't going to bend over. But they're not talking about Joe Joyce. All right?
So the second
definitely isn't going to bend over in a negotiation, which is why he probably won't get to fight Anthony Joshua next. I predicted that Joshua, he ain't fighting Wilder next. They're going to get a Dillian White type of
fighting Dillian White next, yeah. Fighting Dillian White next.
Again, because Dillian White, what is he bringing to the table? What is he bringing to the table? Right? He's coming off of this performance where he didn't look very good. All right. But Maestro, that's going to be a stadium fight. No, it's not. That's not going to be a stadium fight. It's not. Go for it, Joe. What's the attendance?
I'm getting all different attendance because they fought in the Jeddah Dome. Some reports are 40,000, some reports are 60,000. So let's give them 60,000 and let's give them the 60,000 and let's give them
fight.
Let's give them the 60,000 and let's give them the 10,000. Right? So that's 70,000. So now let's look at the 95,000. Let's say, what was it for Dillian White, Tyson Fury, right? What was that? 90,000? And then you got 60.
I see what you're talking about. You're talking about the King Abdullah Stadium. Yeah.
So here's what you got, man. They fought in the Dome. The second fight was bigger because of Joshua lost and the redemption story, whatever. The first fight they fought in the small arena, right?
Okay, the second fight. Okay, I'm looking at it now. This is courtesy of the Sun. You're talking about the first fight at Tottenham. The first fight was 60,000, the same that Fury did. The second fight was 10,000. 10,000. The King at the Port City Stadium. So that's 3,000 across two fights.
When you fight in Saudi, you're fighting in a much smaller arena, which is I thank you for correcting me. So the 10,000 was in the Saudi, and the other one was 60. So Fury fought in his last two fights had a combined attendance of 155,000, right? And Joshua had 70,000. So who's the bigger draw?
It's obvious.
Am I lying about that now too? Is that fake?
No, that's not fake. Salute to Boxing Wave. One of my favorite channels, Boxing Wave. I'll see you with the fight tonight, brother. Thank you so much for the super chat.
So Fury didn't sell out. Let's look at Fury, Dillian White. Again, people lie. Why do you have to lie to make a point?
So
why do you have to lie?
So Smokey says, here we go again. The first fight in Tottenham, AJ sold out in less than 24 hours. Fury didn't even sell out. Did they fight in December weather?
Fury did sell out. They had 94,000 people at Wembley for the Fury's fight.
Did they fight in cold weather when AJ fought at Tottenham? They didn't. Did they fight during the middle of the World Cup when AJ fought at Tottenham? No, they didn't. So just stop it, man.
Fury fought in front of 94,000 fans at Wembley. 94,000. He broke a record.
Look, look, if people are still clinging to this idea.
Fury sold more tickets for his fights than Joshua did in his last two fights. It's a fact. How fast did White Fury sell out? How fast did that? That was in 24 hours too. Yeah, but then you know what people were like, oh, it's a fake sellout.
We're seeing it here right now. We're seeing it in the chat. So
like people just can't accept the truth. Why can I accept the truth that Fury has fucked up and has been his own worst enemy? And you're criticize him. You're well within your rights to criticize what Fury's done in the past. I'm not defending any of it, but you guys just can't refute what I just said. 94,000 and 65,000 versus 60,000 and 10,000.
So
I'm telling everything I said is factual.
Yeah, Fury.
Refute me.
That was Fury's first ever stadium fight. Okay, he still fought in front of 90. Actually, it wasn't because he fought in on an undercard in Ireland.
Was it the Klitschko fight in a stadium?
And also he fought in Dusseldorf in the stadium. So that's actually not true.
Why did people? So again, you can't.
That's okay though.
This is why people they have no credibility because we're debating stats and facts with emotion. Take the emotion out of your argument.
Joe, let me just say this, and I want to ask you a question. All right, so this is the problem right here. We're at a point right now where there's some kind of a cognitive dissonance. All right, people are still, and again, this is fandom, boxing fandom in 2022. Maybe it's always been like this. I'm an 80s baby. Maybe it was like this before as well. But people are still clinging to this idea that AJ is the star in the heavyweight division, and I don't think that he is. I don't think you can back that up with the numbers. Joe's already explained that, but here's how I also don't think you can back it up, right? What fight, Joe, are you most interested in as a boxing fan? Tyson Fury's next fight or AJ's next fight?
I'm going to be 100% honest with you. If Tyson Fury fights Usyk next, obviously I'd be more interested in that as opposed to Anthony Joshua fighting Dillian White.
Okay,
but I'm gonna say something controversial here. I'm actually more intrigued and more interested in an Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder fight than I am versus a Tyson Fury Alexander Usyk fight because I think it would be more entertaining, and you could argue that the outcome is less predictable. I think that fight is much more unpredictable. And in my opinion, with all due respect to Usyk, I just don't see him beating Tyson Fury. Whereas I can see AJ maybe beating Wilder, and I could see Wilder beating AJ. I would pick Wilder in the fight. But for me, because of the styles, because of the vulnerability, because of the punching power of both men, I'm almost guaranteeing that fight ends in a knockout. Where I do think Fury versus Usyk has the potential to actually be a stinker. But in terms of significance, you can't argue that the Fury versus Usyk fight is probably more significant. But in terms of my own opinion of entertainment value, the best fight that I would like to see from just on pure entertainment is Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder.
Okay, there you go.
I'm being objective here. I'm being objective here.
And it was a legitimate question. I wasn't looking for one answer or another, but here we go. I'm Dwayne this time. Thank you for the question. Who do you guys think AJ can beat between Fury, Wilder, and Joyce? Other than them, I don't know who I want to see him fight. I don't think he beats Fury, Wilder, or Joyce, to be perfectly honest. And the fight I'd want to see him in there with is possibly Daniel Dynamite Dubois, because I think that there's a level of vulnerability with them. I think it's one guy going into the later part of his career, one guy entering the middle of his career. They both have a lot to prove, and I think that would be an interesting fight. But, Joe, I want to quickly go to the next and last topic for today, because the football/soccer is about to start, and I do want to make sure I watch Morocco versus Portugal, and obviously I'm going to be watching England and France later today. But this was a very interesting exchange that happened last night on Max's Boxing, the ESPN show that I'm sure many of you are aware of. And I'm just going to pull it up on my second screen here and let you guys have a look at it and tell me what you guys think about it. I thought it was very interesting and /funny, but I want Joe to give his thoughts on this as well with me. Here we go. Max on Boxing, Teofimo Lopez. Let's have a listen.
To ask you about what happened at the weigh-in. You took out a Wonka bar, chocolate bar, and we took a bite. What was that all about?
You gotta buy the Wonka bar to see if you can get there in the factory, man, the chocolate factory. And I was lucky, only 5 winners get it. I got the golden ticket. It's actually here right now as we speak.
That's what I'm asking you about. What's the golden ticket thing about?
Man, that's for my people up in the high table to know, and for everyone else to find out little by little.
All right. So I'm sitting next to Tim Bradley, who won't stop telling me what questions to ask you, right? He wants to know about how many weeks you sparred for this fight, because you only sparred 2 weeks for the last fight. He wants to know about, is Martin playing head games with you, because Kambosos played head games, and that was your only loss. So go ahead. Why don't you answer Tim Bradley's questions first, and I'll ask you mine.
To be honest, I would say that no, there's no, the only person that beats me is me, you know what I'm saying? So it's no mental. I mean, all these guys have tried. Everyone has tried to.
So that's more of the same. I guess Kambosos didn't beat him, right? Because he beat himself.
Get under my skin. They think that what Kambosos did was it, but I was just dealing with a lot of personal stuff. I was going through stages in my personal life, getting close to a divorce, but we're no longer there, thank God. Just a lot of things, a lot of complications in my life. But hey, we're just moving forward now. I was dealing with stuff with my family at the same time. It's just a lot of pressure. I'm only 25. A lot of people think that you could carry the whole world at that age. And, it's just all about now figuring out in my own headspace. The ship doesn't move without myself. I'm the compass now, and I got to realize that more than ever. I can't dictate or allow anyone else that hasn't done anything in their life to tell me how I should live mine.
So what about the sparring? How many weeks sparring you get for this one?
Week of sparring, I did very good, very good. I did a lot of rounds this time around. We did about, let's say, how many weeks? I would say about a whole month, anywhere from, 5 weeks of sparring. So right. I'm definitely, I feel much better. I have that maturity side and going into the ring, and I feel like everyone's going to see that come tomorrow night.
Tim Bradley and Andre Ward are nodding approvingly as you say 5 weeks of sparring. So when you were on the show last month,
Max, I'm gonna be honest, man.
Here we go, Joe. Listen up.
I'm gonna be honest, man. Hey, and this ain't no disrespect to those champs. I got nothing but love for you guys. I think that ESPN needs to reevaluate the guys that are on there, because there's too much vanilla in there. They need some Neapolitan up on that podium.
Okay.
So you could hear that was probably Tim Bradley in the background going, because essentially he's telling Max, yo, we got a little too much white people on that ESPN panel. And then, and it was Joe, any reaction to that?
Well, let me ask you this: Is Teofimo a person of color?
I mean, he says he's Spanish. I would argue that he's like mestizo of like mixed Spanish and like indigenous descent, but he has said himself that he's Spanish. So that's a very good question.
So if you're Spanish, you're not really a person of color, correct?
Yeah, I mean, if you're Spanish, you're European.
Yeah. Okay. So if you have Tim Bradley and Andre Ward, and they're the guys that are doing the commentary, then you got Bernardo Asuna.
Asuna,
right?
yeah.
So if you think about it, there's more minorities at Top Rank possibly, or they're well represented at Top Rank, if not if just as much, or if not maybe even more than white people. So his argument is very flawed. But once again, this is a guy that always makes statements, like many people in the chat, without doing research and actually knowing what they're talking about. Once again, you know when you speak based off of emotion, not knowledge and logic, usually this is what happens. You get diarrhea of the mouth. But go ahead.
So he spends a lot of the remainder of this talking about how he's essentially given props to Andre Ward and Tim Bradley, and not obviously saying much nice about Kellerman. And then he literally openly petitions for Kellerman's job, which I'm going to get to. Here we go.
Sneak peek of what I have more in store for tomorrow night. I'm very someone that's creative. This is my art. I'm here to be abstract in every way possible. I really want people to admire my artwork. That's why I respect the man that says, "Be water, my friend." Because in all honesty, all he ever wanted to really do is show anyone that you could just be you. Don't follow anybody. I've learned a lot of great things from Andre Ward, Hall of Famer. I've also learned a lot from Timothy Bradley, who gives me good knowledge. I've learned from these great champions. I don't have no ego or pride towards them. My whole thing is like my jab has gotten better because I've studied those type of fighters. Andre Ward has one of the best jabs in the game. And how do you learn that? And he has different jabs, and we explained that the other day. So it's just all those things, man. I'm a student of the game, and I'm willing to accept being a student. So that way,
what does that even mean?
In the future, I could become that tremendous.
What does that even mean?
Becoming.
Wait for it.
This guy's a virtue signaler, bro. Like, he's so full of shit, and if you can't see that, then it's ridiculous.
Wait for it.
Can't wait to see
He's going to openly petition for Kellerman's job right now. After earlier saying that there's too much vanilla, he's going to openly petition for it. Hold up.
I look forward to becoming.
Well, it's great to have you back in the ring. Can't wait to see you perform. Good talking to you as always, Theo. Thanks for joining the show. Good luck tomorrow night.
Absolutely. And listen, I just want to throw my shot in there because, closed mouths don't get fed. I'm looking forward to really expand myself in different ways and different platforms. And I would love to be utilized in all those aspects, whether it's voiceovers, commentating, acting, all those things I know I can do. And I just don't want to be known as a professional boxer anymore. So for everyone out there, let's do it.
I think the guys with me now can tell you it beats working for a living doing this for sure. Thank you, Teo. Okay, so
look at Andre Ward and Tim Bradley. Look at Tim Bradley.
On the one hand, I hear him, bro, because
I'm gonna go back. I gotta stop this because we got.
So let's look at that table. Let's look at that table.
Do it.
The color's not represented at that table.
Apparently,
dummy.
Look at Tim Bradley, though.
I think the guys with me now can tell you it beats working for a living doing this for sure. Thank you, Teo.
Look at Tim Bradley.
So, guys,
look at Ward.
On the one hand, I hear him because, look, he wants to diversify. He'd like to do commentary. He would like to do a whole bunch of stuff. That's fine. But when I start to hear a fighter talk about that while he's active, I mean, as a long time
exactly.
Do it, but it starts to make
you nervous. Look at Tim Bradley and Andre Ward.
Look at it. You have options. Great champions a lot of times feel like they don't, right? What do you guys think?
Look at he's like, yo, you go.
Like, he's trying to find himself still. He's still 25 years old. He doesn't know what direction he wants to move in. He loves boxing.
Oh, this is awesome.
It was like boxing hasn't been good to him in the sense of financially. He mentioned the Haney making $4 million. He's making whatever $1 million. I understand that, but he's he can't blame anybody but his manager at the end of the day. I mean, that's it. Your manager. Talk to your manager. That's what this is about.
I don't even blame his manager. The guy's not marketable because he fucking says too many stupid things. You can't be a joke and be taken seriously in this world. Sorry,
well, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, look, it's a guy who didn't make the U.S. Olympic team. His dad was crying to everybody, saying that he was robbed. But then they're still saying
always someone else's fault. Take ownership. Be a fucking man.
They're still saying that Gambosis robbed them. So now I don't believe that he was robbed at the Olympic trials. So he didn't make the Olympic team in the U.S. He fights for Honduras. And then once he turns pro, now all of a sudden he's Spanish, like Sandor Martin, which, by the way, is why I've labeled this card Spanish versus Spanish. But notice I got the quotations on the first Spanish. But okay, we get it. So now there's too much vanilla, right, at ESPN that has Tim Bradley, that has Andre Ward, that has Bernardo Osuna. Granted, they also have Mark Kriegel and Joe Tessitore there, but I've named you three quote unquote visible minorities.
Christina Poncher.
Ward.
Christina Poncher.
Right? I mean, what are we doing here?
They had Sinicia Estrada doing commentary the other day on there.
I mean, you run it back, and it's like Andre Ward, like he didn't even want to talk about it at first. It's like look at Andre Ward here. Hold on, look at Andre Ward.
As a longtime observer of the sport, doesn't mean he can't do it, but it starts to make me nervous. Like if you feel like you have options, great champions a lot of times feel like they don't. Right? What do you guys think?
Look, Andre Ward, he's like head nodded.
Ward, you know what Ward's saying? This is beneath me. I don't even want to fucking talk about this shit.
Yeah, that's literally Andre Ward's reaction to this. So I'm going to go back to where we left off with Tim Bradley. Here we go.
Haney doesn't do anything extra. He just makes
$1 million. He's making whatever, $1 million. I understand that, but it's he can't blame anybody but his manager at the end of the day. I mean, that's it. Your manager. Talk to your manager. That's what this is about.
Haney doesn't do anything extra. He just makes the fights, fights the fights, looks for the next fight.
That's it. You know.
Yeah, you don't get what's fair. You get what you negotiate. So
there you go, Ward.
Don't pocket watch Devin Haney. Devin Haney and Bill Haney, they're doing their thing. They're getting paid. You got to go to your team and you got to ask the tough questions. And if you need to make some change, you got to do that. So you can't get mad at the game. The game's only going to give you what you negotiate.
And Haney got frozen out of the big time for a while. Just kept plugging away. Now he's on top. He got the title that used to belong.
Stop it for 1 second, please.
And very, very
We got to go.
And this is a man, Andre Ward. You don't have to like him. You can criticize whatever you want, right? Never in your life find me a clip where he's ever said, yeah, this guy's making this. I should be making that. Like he negotiated his deals. You can question why did he sign with Goosen? Why did he sign with Jay-Z's fucking what's that organization? Rock Nation. Thank you.
Rock Nation.
He made $5 million for what's his name there, Kovalev. He was happy with his money. He was a millionaire. He's successful. He never complained that he didn't make a $10 million purse or $100 million. He never complained about that because he was happy with what he got, right? And he never tried to subtract from someone else to add to himself. He never pocket watched anyone else. So this is a man who's saying something, but he's not only talking the talk, he walked the walk. So keep that in mind.
Bro, he absolutely walking the walk and talking the talk. Like, bro, don't pocket watch Devin Haney. And by the way, he's also saying that Devin Haney wasn't like the real undisputed champion. And, he's been Devin Haney got all of the belts. I don't know. I don't understand how anybody could criticize Devin Haney. But it's funny because I was watching this with my wife last night after Kenny told me I should watch it. Right. And we're watching this shit. And my wife, she's a casual boxing fan now. I mean, it's impossible not to be when you're married to somebody like me. And she's like, but Devin Haney has all the belts. Like, he doesn't have any belts. Like, why should he be making $4 million to fight Sandor?
Is he making $1 million for this fight?
Does that even make sense?
What is his actual purse for this fight?
Well, Tim Bradley said it. I'll go back. He's the one who said it. We'll play it back.
Because look, he wants to diversify. He'd like to do commentary. He would like to do a whole bunch of stuff. That's fine. But when I start to hear a fighter talk about that while he's active, I mean,
while he's in an interview with Max Kellerman, telling Max Kellerman there's too much vanilla at the table. I see 2 chocolate and 1 vanilla at the table. How much vanilla do you see at the table, Joe Habib?
I see probably I see 2 scoops of chocolate and 1 scoop of vanilla, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, right? So he's saying there's too much vanilla at the table. He goes on to openly petition for Max Kellerman's job in an interview with Max Kellerman. And then, like he said, Max Kellerman's like, should he really be focused on this before a fight?
As a longtime observer of the sport, doesn't mean he can't do it, but it starts to make me nervous. Like, if you feel like you have options,
look at Andre Ward.
A lot of times
he's
feel like
trying to contain himself.
Right? What do you guys think?
Look at Andre.
I just feel that, like, he's trying to find himself still. He's still 25 years old. He doesn't know what direction he wants to move in. He loves boxing, but he just feels like boxing hasn't been good to him in the sense of financially. He mentioned the Haney making $4 million. He's making whatever, $1 million. I understand that, but it's he can't blame anybody but his manager at the end of the day. I mean, that's it. Your manager.
So I got to do it one last time, Joe. I'm sorry. It was too good.
He doesn't do anything extra. He just makes the fights, fights the fights, looks for the next fight.
That's it. That's it. Yeah,
you don't get what's fair. You get what you negotiate.
Boom.
So he don't pocket watch Devin Haney.
I mean, he's sounding like he's straight out of the yay area right here. He's sounding like he's E40 or too short, telling the young man how the game work. Right? You don't get what you deserve. You get what you negotiate, player. Right? I mean, the Oakland's coming all the way out of Andre Ward right now. That Oakland hustler mentality.
I used to tell people that used to complain about how much they made. I said, listen, the deal you take is the deal you make.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
And if you can't make a deal, you know what you got to do, Joe? You got to get on a job, or you got a union doing collective negotiations, which is what I have, which is what Joe have.
You need a seat at the table. You need a seat. If you can't get a seat at the table, then guess what, bro?
You need a seat at the table.
Don't sit down.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't negotiate my salary. Anybody could look up my salary on the internet, right? Because guess what? I'm rated 8B, which is 8 years plus teaching. All right, and a master's plus 30 credits on the DOE step scale. So do the math. I didn't negotiate that. I don't need to negotiate. But he's in an industry where you need to negotiate. And like Andre Ward said, it's not what you deserve, it's what you negotiate.
Haney and Bill Haney, they're doing their thing, they're getting paid. You got to go to your team and you got to ask the tough questions. And if you need to make some change, you got to do that. So you can't get mad at the game. The game's only gonna give you what you negotiate.
And Haney got frozen out of.
And that right there, Joe, is the way it is, man. You know, Virtuoso says Andre Ward is trying to apply street knowledge in an air-conditioned studio. But to me, what he said made sense. And yeah, she is very observant, Dwayne. I appreciate that.
It is. I mean, the facts are going to be where the facts are. You could be at the bottom of a fucking pit. It don't matter. If you're saying truth, you're saying truth. You could be you can be in a fucking stall in a bathroom at a fucking McDonald's. If you're talking the truth, you're talking the truth. Don't matter where you're at.
I agree. So, Joe Habib, thank you so much for joining, man. This was a special episode of Punch Lines. All right. Great to have Joe Habib come on, because usually I'm doing this shit on my own on Punchline.
Gorilla than the planet of the apes. I write a punchline and plant it on your face. Eat a punch that you ain't even got to taste. Here's a shot that you ain't even got to chase.
Everybody who's here already knows what time it is. But in case you don't, make sure you check out Mr. Joe Habib, all right, on Ringside Reporter Live, all right? That's one of my favorite channels to watch. I'm also a member of that channel. That channel's also listed on my channel's page under my connected channels, Mr. Joe Habib, Ringside Reporter Live. He goes live with Mr. Eric Lorta every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time. And I believe that is 11 p.m. if you're out there in the UK. Joe Habib, dynamic duo with Mr. Eric Lorta, Ringside Reporter Live. If you don't watch the show, you're definitely missing out. Go make sure you check it out, all right, because it's a great show. They got callers. You guys can call in. You could rap with them, ask questions, etc. Great show. Any last words, Joe?
I'm so curious to see. I'm hearing this guy, Teofimo Lopez, talk about other fighters, looking at Regis Prograis, telling everyone he's going to run this division, talking about endorsements, giving fighters advice up on the podium during the press conference on how they should do this, do that, whatever. And he's still hasn't figured it out himself. I'm wondering what version of Teofimo Lopez is going to be in that ring tonight with Sandor Martin, and could there be a possible slip up in this fight, and dare I say, as you just said, upset?
Yeah, I mean,
I may look by this is the same shit that I was seeing before the Kambosos fight, and all this craziness and all this other fucking shit that has nothing to do with the fight, all this distraction. I'm curious to see what version we see, and I may put a little something on Sandor Martin tonight.
I wouldn't blame you. And to answer your question, Dwayne, there's a lot of top dogs at 140, man.
I don't think he beats Prograis. I don't think he beats Josh Taylor. I don't even think he beats Ramirez, bro. I don't think he beats any of those guys.
Matias is a dog, although he's with
he may never be champion ever again.
Alberto Puello is a dog. He's with the PBC. So, if he wants a title, he's going to have to see Josh Taylor go across the street to the PBC or see Regis Prograis. And good fights for him.
The winner of this fight will get Prograis.
Yeah.
And neither one of them has a shot, in my opinion.
There you go. So again, punchlines. Everybody make sure you enjoy Morocco against Portugal. That should be starting if it hasn't already. I'm just going to catch up. I have it recording on my DVR. Make sure you check out England against Spain. We have some very good matchups in the World Cup. We had yesterday Argentina coming down from a 2-0 deficit to take out the Netherlands in a penalty shootout. We also had Brazil giving up a 1-0 advantage to lose in a penalty shootout to Croatia. So there's been a lot going on in the World Cup. All right, there's a lot going on in boxing. That's going to be it for me. I'm going to get up out of here. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everybody. Enjoy the fights, and make sure you check out Ringside Reporter Live tomorrow night, Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, 11 p.m. if you're out there in the UK. All right, that's going to be it. We're up out of here then.